Ubisoft is planning to protect developers from harassment with Assassin's Creed Shadows.
Hope you guys have had a great weekend. We've got some hilarious news being reported here. Apparently, Ubisoft is, as Bandar Hub says here in their tweet, preparing to curb the backlash against critics of Assassin's Creed Shadows. They're going as far as sending lawyers after you if they deem your criticism a targeted attack or harassment. My gosh, isn't that pathetic? They include this diagram. Let's check this out.
Yes, let's read it.
Ubisoft prepares an anti-harassment plan to target critics. News, according to BFM TV. An extreme and stressful situation that Ubisoft prefers to anticipate. An anti-online harassment plan.
Yeah, this is what's going to happen with new games. This happens with all games nowadays. Ubisoft sore losers. Well, that's why they sent you a copy. Oh, so wait. Wouldn't that be entrapment?
Was even presented to the CSE to accompany the game's release and protect employees. Quote, it's an initiative from Canada. There's a team that monitors networks and acts quickly in the event of a targeted attack.
Initiative from Canada.
Unquote, explains an elected official. Psychological and legal support is promised to employees who are targeted. Another quote here, unlike what we've had before, this is serious.
Yeah, true.
Thus, messages posted by internet users on X, formerly Twitter, Reddit, or even videos on YouTube will be closely monitored by a dedicated unit in order to respond quickly to the slightest problem. Lawyers are already ready to file complaints in the event of proven harassment. So yeah,
the thing is that, and this is the problem that I have, in essence, I agree with this. I think that if you're harassing developers on a personal level because you don't like what's happening in a video game, you need to be put in a box because you're not ready for civil society. You're not ready to be in the real world. You need to be in a box, and that way you don't hurt yourself or hurt anybody else. But where do you draw the line here? Sounds like a sales pitch to their workforce. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, and also, by the way, this really, it doesn't fill anybody, does it fill anybody with any confidence that they're saying this? I don't know. I feel like they're not so good, huh? Not so good. We have to define harassment. Yeah, if an employee is public. Well, I think harassment is very simple, right? Harassment is when you make something personal, when you are attacking them in private channels. Like, for example, you see a developer, you find out their phone number, and you're calling them. That, in my opinion, is uncivilized behavior that no one should be expected to tolerate. No one should tolerate that. You do that, that's harassment. But saying that your game sucks dick on Twitter is not harassment. And hopefully it's not the truth either. I guess we're going to find out.
Actually seen this sort of corpo jargon from various other corporations before as well.
Yeah.
And they seem to love loosely defining this stuff or like not defining it at all, right? Like oftentimes what they would call targeted harassment or attacks is like valid criticism against the game. And you would think this sort of corporate corruption...
Yeah, I mean, I think that all the time people conflate harassment with criticism in order to make people feel sorry for them, basically. I think that's effectively what happens in a lot of these cases.
Is something anyone would like get behind criticizing, right? Like this is not something that should be defended. However,
I'll give you an example. So an example of this is like that Matt Hansen guy from Obsidian. People were criticizing him and attacking him personally, but I think that all of that criticism was completely fair and there's nothing wrong with it because he's making personal statements on a public website. If you're making public statements on a public website and then people come back and they say, wow, these statements are really stupid and it sounds racist for you to say this, that's not harassment. It's not. At all. He came out, was done publicly? Yeah, exactly.
Activist outlet The Gamer apparently is taking Ubisoft's side on this one.
Well, they have to.
Ubisoft reportedly has a plan to protect devs from harassment when Assassin's Creed Shadows launches. With the bullet points, Ubisoft reportedly has a plan in place to protect devs from abuse after Assassin's Creed Shadows launches. devs are apparently already being told to be cautious on social media, and Ubisoft is also said to be...
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. I think that the video game industry has a huge problem of these like weird, like completely socially captured like identity politics zealots that are now in video games. And Ubisoft doesn't want to have like what happened to Obsidian happen to them. They don't want to have one or two of their employees that has like these extreme weird views go out and just start fucking saying this from the rooftops, and now everybody's mad they don't like your game. That's not just a video game industry. Yeah, but I'm talking about video game industry. When you put them in a box. Yeah, no, for sure. And one dude killed Avowed. Okay, but when will that put you in a box because you're talking about a game? Well, if you are invading a person's personal space and harassing and stalking them, and in some cases threatening them, this is something that doesn't have anything to do with video games. So criticism of a video game is very different than personal harassment. Like, it's that simple.
Collaborating with a Canadian government agency is combat online abuse. What? I think they meant to combat online abuse, not is combat online abuse, but who knows with these people.
Yeah.
Furthermore, they actually write like the full article here. They say, it's hard to imagine that morale has been great at Ubisoft since Assassin's Creed Shadows revealed.
I bet.
The first trailer was released last spring, and since then the game has been hit with delays, and the studio has faced layoffs. But of course, the main story surrounding Assassin's Creed Shadows is the backlash, as the anti-woke /DEI/whatever it's called now movement made the game its latest target. This was all because...
By the way, this isn't limited to games like AC Shadows. GGG dropped all communication because players went too far. Yeah, exactly. And this is and the problem is that this is... So it's like that meme, the worst person you know made a great point. I think that's the situation here. I actually support Ubisoft in this, but the question is always, to what extent will this be used?
One of the game's protagonists, while critics say that they take issue with Shadows referring to Yasuke as a samurai, it doesn't take a lot of looking to find violently racist imagery and language being used towards the game and its depictions of its black protagonist. The backlash was intense, with Elon Musk joining in on the hate. So, let's pause for a second. There's been a lot of critiques towards this game for various reasons, including even the architecture apparently being more Chinese than Japanese.
And it's not hate entirely. Like, there are some people that just disagree with you. Like, they might not like what you're doing. That's not necessarily hate. Can you clarify this situation with, like, Dragon Age Veilguard? Fall again, which game had senior devs getting on his soapbox? Do you think these scenarios are different or similar? Sure. With Veilguard, any of the criticisms of the only person who was outspoken in Veilguard was Corinne Bush, which was one of the main directors of the game. And I never said that it's this person's fault. I never harassed them. I said they did a bad job because I think that they did. But other than that, who gives a fuck? I think that it's such an obvious difference whenever you're talking about harassment versus criticism.
Including people who even tried the game out already, criticizing how clunky Yasuke felt to play, and or that he also just made the combat like way too easy. It's like easy mode. Those are just a few examples. But hey, to the activists over at The Gamer, of course they want to try and manipulate a narrative around this whole thing. I also love how journalists and other modern audience type of people, etc., constantly try and act like DEI is something that like gamers made up, when we're just using the terms that corporate...
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I've noticed this a lot, is that they use DEI as if it's like this fake boogeyman, but they were the ones that, like, they created the term. Yeah, they created it themselves.
Those literally made. You have literal corporations and government agencies using this term, and then when people start talking about it in the public, suddenly, it's whatever they're saying, DEI, woke, whatever. It's like, bro, we're literally using the corporate terminology. And you would think that these activists at The Gamer would agree to criticize corrupt actions from corporations, including this whole, like, new policy that Ubisoft is apparently implementing to protect Assassin's Creed Shadows from critiques. But no, to these activists, just because gamers are critiquing Ubisoft, they decide they want to stand with the corporations, with giant corporations, Yeah, wonderful activism, isn't it? Continuing, they say.
Well, it's
Now,
because they're aligned with it because the journalists get the same type of criticism as well. But a lot of these journalists do the same thing, is that they write articles that are misleading, slanderous, untrue, or just a lie in one way or another. And then they act like they're getting harassment when people are saying that you're a liar. That's what happens. I think that
seems
happens
that
a
Ubisoft,
lot.
it prepare.
It's super common.
Another typo? What is this? Now it seems that Ubisoft, it prepare for this to even get worse at launch. As reported by Tech & Co., spotted by Reset Era user Arabedo, Ubisoft is said to have implemented a plan to protect its devs as we approach Shadow's
Big
launch.
plan.
This reportedly includes offering psychological and legal support and is part of a Canadian initiative against online abuse. Unfortunately, this is something
This is why I don't want them to be a state.
have to account for now. Of course, the attacks have been going on for some months now. We're advised not to post on social media that we work at Ubisoft to avoid harassment, says one Ubisoft worker quoted in the report. As part of this, Ubisoft is said to be working with the Canadian Communications Security Establishment and has drafted up a plan to combat harassment. It's an initiative from Canada. There's a team that monitors networks and acts quickly in the event of a targeted attack. Unlike what we've had before, this is serious. Assassin's Creed Shadows launches on March 20th. We'll have to wait and see where it lands with fans and critics.
Oh my god.
I just don't think the strategy of demonizing your audience is going to work. I don't. I feel like that's a pretty bad way of doing things. And also the problem is that, see, this is the issue that I have with this. Because again, I support this in theory. But the problem is that the theory is very often not accurate. They're really saying someone call the cyber police. Yeah, can you even criticize it? Well, for me, yeah, of course. I mean, if I'll criticize it, I mean, like, if they sue me for harassment, then I'm going to live stream the trial, and I'll just, even if they get money out of me, I'll just make the money back with the live stream. It won't matter. It's not going to make won't make a difference. So, like, it doesn't matter. And also, I'm not even Canada. So yeah, it's not even that. So, and it's not like, and also this is another thing, is like, if you're on the internet, like, what if some guy in fucking Ukraine says this? Like, you're going to extradite some guy from Ukraine and sue them? It's impossible.
What I would not even be surprised if this was just massive code from Ubisoft. What I mean by that is, I wouldn't be surprised if their own employees don't want to post that they work at Ubisoft, not because they're afraid of gamers or whatever, that's the spin, but because they simply don't want to post that they work at Ubisoft because they're embarrassed to work at Ubisoft.
Well, it's if you... No, the thing is that I would understand them not wanting to post because they get a lot of negative feedback for being part of this company. I totally understand that. I think that's reasonable. Of course they're not going to want to say that. I think it's the same thing with Blizzard. Like, Blizzard used to be a company you used to be proud of working for, and now if people find out about Blizzard, the first thing they're going to ask about is breast milk. Yeah, of course they don't want to be associated with it. And Ubisoft had its own share of sexual controversies too. So it not only does it have garbage games, but it apparently for a long time was a garbage company too. So yeah, I totally understand this.
Speaking of Ubisoft's stance against harassment and all that stuff, check this out. Interestingly enough, March 10th, just the other day, Deadline had reported, former Ubisoft execs go on trial over toxic workplace as union calls for CEO to be tried for complicity.
Yeah.
Previously, the trial of 3 former executives at French Assassin's Creed video game publisher Ubisoft, accused of sexual harassment and workplace bullying, has begun in Paris. In the backdrop, the Solarities Information Union, representing workers in the French video game sector, has announced it is issuing a request for Ubisoft co-founder and CEO Yves Guillemot and longtime HR executive Marie Derain to also stand trial for complicity in the alleged toxic behavior. There is no suggestion either were directly involved in sexual harassment or bullying. The trial of the 3 ex-Ubisoft execs is taking place as the beleaguered Paris-based company gears up for the postponed launch of Assassin's Creed Shadows on March 20th. Much rides on the success of the 14th installment of the hit franchise, with Ubisoft recently reporting a 30% drop in revenue in the first 9 months of its current financial year. The accused men include former Ubisoft Chief Creative Officer Serge Hascoët, probably didn't say that right, who was second in command of the company and regarded as co-founder Guillemot's right-hand man for 14 years from 2006. So he's joined with a few other executives as well, and I'm not going to go into like all this trial stuff. I just thought it was rather interesting, as mentioned, that we get the statement from Ubisoft and the Canadian government apparently teaming up and all that. Oh, we're against harassment. Meanwhile, all this is going on too. Of course, at least
it sounds like they should be more against harassment at their own company. They should focus on that instead of focusing on the internet. I mean, because that's where apparently there's sexual harassment and stuff like that happening at this company. This is a huge issue.
For the time of recording this video, I don't believe they've been found guilty or anything like that. It seems to be ongoing. But again, interesting stuff, isn't it? We've also talked in the past about how various corporations like to try and virtue signal publicly as they deal with their own controversies. So make of all this what you will. Now, I thought it might be fun to...
I mean, I'm going to be honest. Like, I think if you're harassing a developer, you're calling their personal phone, you are attacking them on a personal level, you're threatening them. I think this is harassment, and I think you should be held accountable for it. Absolutely. Because like you've left the realm of criticism, and now you're attacking them on a personal level. And I'm not saying like, oh, calling somebody a fat bitch is like a problem, but like going and like, doxing or doing anything else crazy like that, calling their personal phone, like sending them mail, anything like that, that's completely over the line. And no reasonable, civil, tolerant society should have any room for that to exist. Agreed? That's actual harassment? Yeah, exactly.
This video was something rather amusing. That takes us to the subreddit for Assassin's Creed Shadows. They say, #2 in Japan, we have won. With the included image reading best...
You get 1 second place, but yeah.
Sellers in PlayStation 5 games. #1, Monster Hunter Wilds. #2, Assassin's Creed Shadows. And #3, Split Fiction. And we can take a look at the most downvoted comments on that post, and it's hilarious seeing what upset the Assassin's Creed Shadows defenders over on that subreddit. For example, -16 downvotes reading, #1 on that list is 70k, #5 is 7k, and MGS3 #10 is at 2k.
Yeah.
You're really celebrating 1k sales 3 days from release. This one with -19 downvotes reading, Reddit when a new game is best-selling first week. Remind me what happened with Dragon Age. And -20 downvotes reading, my guy, it is a quote-unquote bestseller with only 7,000 sold for PS5 and 1,000 sold for Xbox. Where's your quote-unquote win, bro? Ultimately, the mods for the Assassin's Creed Shadows subreddit would decide to lock the post. So yeah, just thought that was pretty amusing. Hope you guys enjoyed the entire segment, though. If you did, please consider liking and subscribing. Appreciate you. Have a great week ahead, and I'll see you in the next one.
I think this is a huge thing that a lot of gamers have, and a lot of people do take things too far. And in the case that people do take things too far, I think that they should be held accountable. What's the big news for Assassin's Creed today? Well, the big news is that we're going to play it.